Hello and welcome to This Contains Garlic. You're here with your hosts Georgia Garlic
Mark Garlic.
and we are back. Happy, or actually no, probably when you listen to this it won't be Happy Wednesday, but it is Wednesday.
It's end of January.
Fucking finally, really, honestly. I've just eaten a load of protein pancakes.
Today's our anniversary.
Oh yeah,
Our
it is.
fifth.
In fact, we're not gonna
Yeah,
lie. We didn't actually remember. Um, it's our fifth wedding anniversary today.
yeah,
Well, our official, the registry office one. I guess
yeah.
it's not the
The
official
one
one.
where we popped down to the office in between clients to get married legally.
No, I think that's a bit dramatic. That's a bit dramatic. We didn't pop down. We actually took half the day off.
We
Mark.
took half the day off.
I do think that if I look back at those wedding photos, I think I look a bit puffy in them. I
Yeah,
don't know. I think we were just fucked from work. To be
my
honest.
t-shirt buttons were
Yeah.
straining.
I don't think we'll bring those photos up. I look much better for the actual wedding.
Yeah, so we got married in Hammersmith and
2000.
Fulham.
Mark, why do you need to tell people the location of exactly where we got married? I was
In
going
the
to say Cape
registrar's
Town, not
office.
fucking Hammersmith and Fulham.
Yeah, we're Hammersmith and Fulham in the registrar's office.
Yeah, it was really uninspiring.
Stood
to be
there
honest
like
with
we're in
you.
the headmaster's office. Your sister was on the phone. It was,
Yeah, because my sister couldn't be asked to come across and actually make an effort. I'm joking. She lives in New York. But yeah,
please
no,
can you
today.
come all the way from New York to London to go and stand in Hammersmith?
In a small fucking poxy room with somebody whose breath smells terrible whilst you sign a really shitty piece of paper and then you're tied to each other for life. That's literally what marriage is. If you don't have the
Marriage is-
party, that's what marriage is.
Yeah, well, marriage is the.
It's weird though, because people always say to you, oh, does life change when you're married? Not really. I guess for some people, I think they take it more seriously. It might be their token to have a child. Do you know what I mean? It's definitely not my token
Why
to
do
have a child.
you come?
I'm still a child.
That statement makes you come across like you don't take it seriously.
What, that I don't take my marriage seriously?
Yeah.
No, I don't really take you seriously, to be quite honest with you.
Why?
Like, I always say that marriage is just one of those things that when you have a really bad argument, you just can't just walk away as easily.
You can just walk and close the door behind you.
Yeah, you do that
And
all the
stay
fucking
silent.
time. He doesn't just close it, you slam it.
I
And
love slamming.
I'll tell everyone a story about the time we had a really bad argument.
Yeah.
We had an argument in the gym. This was in Cape Town, and I'd just come out of my session because I was too raging to be in the same space as Mark. And then Mark
Yeah, rightfully
followed
so.
through and was busy shouting at me for something whilst we were in a massive argument. And then instead of being like, okay, he was like, right, that's it. I'm fucking off. I'm over this. I'm going upstairs. And as he fucked off, he blew his calf muscle. Tall, and not just one, because then when he jumped onto the other one, he blew the other one. So he had to be on the floor. So I was like, oh, okay, you're fucking off nowhere because you're like, you're literally on the floor.
I couldn't walk.
And then you blew both of your calves to the point where you literally were in two boots. You couldn't train.
Yeah, that was mad.
I just spent like 3 days in
I had to
hospital.
sit on my ass and shower myself like I had no legs.
Yeah, well, no, why? Thanks. Yeah, anyway, and then we ended up in a massive debt on our private medical insurance where they knock on the door for 20,000
No.
rand for 2 plastic
Well,
boots.
it took me 10 days to get better, and then I asked them, could drop everything off because I've only used them for like a week, and they were like, no. So I was like, well, I don't see why I need to pay for it.
I don't think we ended up paying for it. Probably not. Just avoided that. Do you know what I mean? Probably got charged on our insurance somewhere. The joys of, yeah, I mean, in the UK. In fact, actually, we don't really. I guess we're quite blessed to say we don't really need private medical insurance in the UK.
No.
Like we were thinking about it because I don't want to be like that added strain to the NHS. Do you know what I mean? Not that we don't all pay enough taxes and all that shit, but whatever. So I would like probably. I mean, if we had a need, I guess you don't really want a need because then your insurance policy like goes skyrockets, doesn't it? So I don't know. It's something we've maybe considered, but I don't really see the point of spending money on private medical insurance when I literally just don't use any of it. Well, it's no point, is there? Anyway, boring. Today we're going to talk about.
Training frequency
Okay, thank you for just fucking clearly I
and
can't have a
the
breath.
nuanced topic around how many times you should train per week.
Why are you
And
whispering? You just suddenly
I'm
got
not
like,
whispering, I'm
okay.
talking into the microphone.
Yeah, but it's just suddenly gone just like really. Oh yeah, honestly, like fuck's sake. Anyway, we're going to talk about how often should you train per week. It might seem like quite a basic topic to talk about, and it might just seem like we've got a one sentence answer. But number one, if you know us already, we don't have a one sentence answer for anything. And number two, it's actually quite a complex topic when it comes to training styles, and also just understanding more about like using your mindset with training as well, because there can be that negative effect that people either overtrain, you know, to compensate on other parts of their life. So, what's the 411 mark? How often should somebody train per week?
I think the answer can and should vary for each individual, but a generic answer, I would say between 3 to 4, maybe sometimes 5 times a week, depending on your overall recovery and your
Actually, I think
nutrition
before
and
you go on
lifestyle.
to that, I think we need to talk about the fact that we are talking specifically to strength and.
Yeah, well, I think let's just let's
Okay, let's just
quantify
interrupt
that.
me. It's okay.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but
Well,
I
you
want
just
you
did.
to maybe explain the different types
Thank
of
you, fucking
exercise.
teacher, Mark.
I'm mansplaining it to you.
Oh, shut up! I just like you to, you know, it's just like all those men on YouTube.
Which men on YouTube?
Oh, Andrew Tate, Mike Thurston, all of that. Do you know what I mean? Let's just talk at like women like they're a piece of meat, but it's okay. Do you know what I mean? At least I've got abs. Literally.
No hair on their chests.
None. There's not one body hair on a man like that. Look, can't dismiss it, whatever, each their own. They're not helping the world, but the world's not getting any better anyway, so what's the point? I would say that we're talking specifically to strength training and understanding that for us, strength training is something that's structured. So when we say 3 to 5 times a week, it's not something where you're doing the same session every single day, you know what I mean?
No.
Or within those 3 to 5 that you're repeating the same movements. Like we do it in a very structured manner where it's covering all the right training fundamentals, yeah. So it's important that you don't get that mixed up with the fact that we should be on a day-to-day basis moving our bodies frequently. And I'm not saying like 10,000 steps per day. I'm saying that you need to make some kind of effort to at least reach. I mean, we say like the average person, like forget if you want to, we're not talking weight loss here. We're just talking like average health. We'd probably say minimum 5,000, between 5,000 and 7,500 a day, like is the kind of happy medium for most people to sit at. Should you have a weight loss goal, obviously that's a tactic that you can obviously increase your energy expenditure, and then obviously that potentially not speeds up, but yeah, it technically speeds up the weight loss process if you move more. So with exercise, I just wanted to clarify, like I wouldn't necessarily advise somebody doing like 5 times a week of HIIT. I just don't.
No, because the fatigue, that the repetitive nature of the movements, plus combining it with the high intensity nature, which with high intensity comes high level of fatigue, that has an overall impact on your central nervous system, has an impact on your joints, it has an impact on your ligaments, it has a vast impact on the way your body signals muscle protein synthesis, you know. So
and I just want to quickly touch on HIIT training, because I think over the years it's changed quite a lot. HIIT really started as like interval and high intensity. So high intensity in training terms, well, it's actually in body weight movements, you could say. High intensity used to be like plyometric movements,
like
so
Insanity,
like
the
it would
DVD.
be like doing like fucking like a bear crawl into a squat jump.
Did you ever watch the DVD Insanity?
No, you're going off track. It's annoying me. No, but I just think it's important to clarify that 3 years now, what we mean by high intensity is like huge amounts of reps. Like, so you could be doing things for minutes on end. So like we would probably only roughly work with, especially a strength movement, probably between like 6 and 12 reps at most, sometimes 15 if it's like an upper movement, like, I don't know, arms or something, and you want more volume. But like a HIIT training thing is either going for minutes, or it's going for like a you know,
Yeah,
45
it's just
seconds, or it's going for literally, you've got to do like 50, and
there's
then
a
you
lot
do
of or like as many reps as possible, or like a Tabata style where you're always consistently trying to build on the volume.
they have minimal break as well. So comes a point where
Yeah.
you in
So
a
like you're
physique manner, your body is going to become very, very tired from doing that. If you physically, if I enjoyed HIIT training and I did it alongside strength training in a very structured manner, I would see probably, you know, a good return of some degree. You see, the problem with HIIT training is a lot of people go in with HIIT training as a beginner, and most of the time as a beginner you have minimal muscle mass. And I'm not being or speaking down about having minimal muscle mass. I think having muscle mass is something that's very, very important to somebody. And so when you're going in and doing these movements, it's not something that's going to effectively help you build muscle in any way. So it's effectively
No,
going to
but
hurt
if you're a beginner
you.
as well and you've got low understanding or competency of the movements and how to perform the movements with adequate form and technique, then adding that added pressure of increased fatigue and always having to
Your
work at
form is
incredibly
always
high
guaranteed terrible.
range of intensity or rate of perceived exertion, your form, it's not like, oh, I've got good form. Your form is going to deteriorate as you get tired. It's human nature. And this is why the vast majority of people, unless you're a statistical outlier that you just punish your body on a regular basis and you just don't see any drawbacks, the vast majority of people,
Yeah, but it's not necessarily drawbacks you see in like a year, 2 years, or 3 years of training.
No,
Like
but it's like
we've trained,
we saw HIIT kick off, and then everybody had knee pain and ankle pain and elbow pain.
yeah, but it's, you know, there's ways that
know.
people can teach things. Like if you reiterated the education for how to perform these movements properly, you
Yeah,
probably have
sure.
a larger. But if you don't really, if the person that's doing it doesn't really
That's
have a
true.
full understanding as to like the body and how it moves properly, then like it is that most of
But
their clients or the people that are, you know, following that movement pattern are going to struggle with it. Like I have not worked with, for example, one woman probably over the age of 40 who hasn't like punished themselves with HIIT training for years, and they are fucked. Like they are so fucked that like hips, knees, ankles, elbows, shoulders,
all
just
the
like, because
joints,
it's too much
lower back.
volume. So this is where, like, when we talk about like how often should I train a week, like if you're doing that kind of high level intensity every single day, unless you are an athlete, additionally probably supplemented with some additional hormones and some aid of recovery, you know, you're likely to really struggle to be able to maintain that routine of training.
I think even you would struggle then, because it's also the repetitive nature of the following and repeating the same movement patterns, like
It depends, because
squatting, lunging.
if you had the
Yeah,
same,
but the vast majority of the programming is always going to be anterior based, knee flexion based, you know, push based,
yeah,
minimal
but
pulling.
you're not talking about, you know,
The actual
outside of
structure of it.
exercise with recovery is the fact that
Yeah, but
if you can have 2 massages a week and somebody that stretches you, or you do like, you know, and you have that additional time to, you probably can get away with it for a much longer period of time than somebody that's just a beginner, or somebody that's not got any understanding as to exactly what they're doing. Like, of course, everything's going to give you strain. It's the same as, like, you know, people that, you know, that are runners. Like, if you're have run for years and years and years, like, likely is that sometimes you're going to pick up like a niggle here and there. And like, you know, that's why stuff like strength training is builds that foundation. Like forget like actually like lifting the weight and you know why people strength train, but it does give you the potential to build muscle in a structured manner, which then allows you to have that foundation. So should you want to mix up your training styles a little bit, you're not then going in in a situation where you effectively got nothing that's really holding you up.
The main argument for people undertaking things like HIIT and their different variations is the time. So for people that are time strapped, time poor, potentially don't have a lot of equipment, what is the solution?
Well, this is the thing. I don't think the solution is necessarily throwing yourself on the floor. Now, some people get a rage of endorphins from this, and I appreciate the element of being like red hot and sweaty. But actually moving forward onto this as to how often we should train a week and also why, you know, it should be limited is number one, like, you know, you cannot say... You can't base how you know your training session and how hard you've worked off of two things: how much you've sweat, you've perspired throughout the session. So if you're sweaty, you're hot, and a hot mess, that is not a dictation of the fact if you've worked hard enough. And two, not doing it for the fact that your watch is burning calories. You know, there is those two things that I think. When it comes to home workouts, you can have a seriously good structured home workout. Is most of these HIIT trainers and stuff like that already pump you to having, you know, a dumbbell or a band or multiple things that you attach yourself to.
Few bits and pieces.
You know, so actually, like, what's to say that your body? You want to see the effects, like you in half an hour. If you had the same slightly varied structured, say you had one pair of dumbbells at home. Yeah. You had no additional access to weight, barring your body weight. You didn't have any interest in you know increasing that equipment, and you had a mat. You could still do in 30 minutes if you wanted to take a slightly higher volume approach, or I don't know, limit the break between a superset. You could have such a good structured training session properly, you know what I mean, that's moving your body in the right way within a short period of time. The difference is that.
But you would have to maintain a relatively high intensity, but it's not the movement selection of like jumping or the exercises that are like one exercise that turns into 1,500 combinations. It's like a squat, into a lunge, into a press, into a curl, into a...
This all started though, like probably from the likes of, I'm sure people listening to this will know who I'm talking about, Tracy Anderson, who was like this, like, what you could describe as, she obviously had a lot of celeb clients, and like she was always in a fucking leotard with like an awful amount of sweat all over her. It was almost like, what are you fucking doing? Like, it's like you're slipping, like, you know what I mean? Like slipping. Yeah, you're slippering everywhere, like, but always in a mirror, always with the tits and the vagina somewhere. Anyway, she had clients of the likes of, you know, like Madonna and like all of those back in the day, and she was just keep on fucking moving. There's just no, and down, you kick. Absolute loser if you can't balance one hand on a chair whilst you lift your leg up with an ankle weight, and oh my god, you've got a small dumbbell on the other hand, and now you're balancing and onto the floor, rolling into the mirror, you know. And I've watched like her, I've watched her clients technically train in a gym.
Yeah, I've seen.
It's painful to watch.
When I worked in Notting Hill, there was a woman that rented upstairs, and she had 8 to 10 hours a day of that.
Bruv, it's like I watch it and I'm like, such a risk safety wise. People are scared of picking it. Now this is actually a really good statement to make, because people are scared in a gym. Now I appreciate you've got some egotistical men with titties hanging out and like pumping iron, but they're actual losers, do you know what I mean? So let's be honest. I'm sorry, they are. Do you know what I mean? You're doing it for attention. You don't have to be naked in a gym to like be fucking great. Do you know what I mean? You also don't. Your strength is not equivalent when you're doing a quarter rep on a leg press in a vest.
Losers,
do you know what I mean?
Though.
But they are losers, half of them. So, well, if you've got enough to judge somebody else in a gym, you're a loser anyway. Like you are. Like fact of the matter. Like tell me I'm fucking wrong. No. But like people, like women are very scared of going into a.
No, I get it.
Into a gym to lift weights.
It's just good to.
But what amazes me is that women will put themselves in these positions. Do you know what I mean? They'll do aerial fucking yoga, hang themselves from a bloody ceiling. Do you know what I mean? They'll go and put themselves balancing on a chair, one leg with a dumbbell, prancing around. But they think that weight training is too hard for them. Like, what the fuck? You've already just put yourself into some acrobatic gymnastic position,
Or like pole
balancing
dancing
on a dumbbell.
Yeah, pole dancing.
No, Mark, pole dancing is not a regular thing for, I think, a lot of people. And also, it's fucking hard. I used to go to pole dancing lessons.
Oh, okay. Let's
What?
unpack
No, I would have
that
looked like a
bit.
whale going down the pole. Thud, thud, thud. Bruises everywhere. Unsexy.
Like a whole snack.
You know what? And that is exactly why I just said that most men with titties out in a gym are losers, because comments like that come out far too frequently.
Yeah, just looking delicious.
Oh, God, do you know what I mean? Like, I've got to be a snack to you. How about give me your fucking money? But that's the thing. Men will easily give over money to women because women do have that control. Not the fact that we're not exploited 24/7, but, you know, I'm just saying in general terms, like the fact I'm a snack on a pole, do you know what I mean? If anything, you're just draining a man's wallet whilst you're doing so in a strip club or like just for yourself. It's great.
Yeah, saving that money to get a higher education.
I used to work with a sports brand actually back in the day that worked with a girl who was a London girl actually. She was fucking great at pole dancing, but she was also a strength something. So obviously, like, I don't think I do pole dancing. So I don't really see the point.
The moral of the story is but the thing is like, maybe it's the group of people that you're doing it, or like maybe it's more inclusive towards
I don't
women.
see how Tracy Anderson's inclusive. I really don't. She's probably
no, but
the
not
least
Tracy
inclusive.
Anderson, but like, let's just say HIIT in general, or
yes,
other forms of exercise like Pilates or yoga.
Pilates is very different. Yoga is very different to high intensity.
No, I guess, but I'm
very
talking
easy
from
to sell. It's very easy to sell HIIT because you're doing something different. And
would you say? I know I'm interrupting again, but would you say that women do more HIIT than men? Or would you say
no, because I think CrossFit could sometimes pass the barrier of
well, let's not rule CrossFit. I'm talking about just like...
Okay, thank you for just putting down what I just came out with.
Dumbbell. Let's just know, like, dumbbell-based workouts that are not, you know, utilizing too much equipment, but just like...
But you've also got to see, like... I don't know how to say this without probably some offense. Most people are idolizing to look like the person that's training them. Like, that is literally the psychology of most people with personal trainers. It's a really worrying one, like where people will sign up with the trainer because they're like, oh my god, she's perfect, and she does that, and she does like 7,000 ab crunches into combo moves, and oh my god, she's got a flat stomach, so I need that, so I'm going to do the style of training that she does. I actually don't even think there's sometimes even a thought pattern between it's the whole thing of I want to look like that, so I'm going to do that. Now, some people, as I've said, very much enjoy that rush of endorphins all the fucking time, where they're just like sweaty hot and like fractured bones. Do you know what I mean? But the
sweaty
I
hot,
know this because
sweaty hot and with sore knees.
I went to multiple like extreme fat loss camps when I was really overweight, and all of the I'm not going to get into this because it's such a passion of mine. I could literally go for like 3 hours, but all of the style of training is like AMRAP or like running or like flipping a tire or like get down the floor 500 burpees, you're late, and like it's fucking brutal. Like literally your body, and then you got to do that like 4 times a day, live on like 800 calories, sorry, and then go for like a 13-mile hike in the afternoon as recovery, you know. It's all of these things that I think that sometimes when you're very unaware of a training environment, which most people, unless you're like, you know, autistic like us in like a fit industry like ours, you're not really thinking. You're just kind of like, oh, that style of training is interesting. And there's also this mentality to say that our attention span is not mine. I mean, I'd like to say mine's not, but as a world population, our attention span is shortening. So the idea of like changing exercise is what people like to see, is that's why they buy into it. They're like, oh my god, that's a new move, what the fuck is that move? But okay, do you know what I mean? Wow. Like, and the whole thing of this thing in the back of your mind, like, oh my god, I'm sweating, I'm red, I've worked out, my watch is telling me, you know, an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or a Garmin always favors more movement. So if you strap it around your ankle instead of your hand, and you're not somebody that uses their hands more, and you walk, you're going to get more steps. The same with if you're waving it about. If you wave your fucking arm around tons, you're going to get loads of steps. So that's why these watches are formed for calorie burning exercise. When you go into strength training, do you know how many clients we've worked with over the year? But I've only burnt 200 calories. Do you know what I mean? Strength training, like, let alone the body composition's like changed dramatically, and they look amazing. They built loads of muscle. But like when I used to do this, I burnt X, do you know what I mean? 400 calories. Why is that? And it's like, because it's a sensor, do you know what I mean? The more you move, like, you don't want to be moving in a split squat. You want to be doing a structured split squat. You know what I mean? You want to be holding the dumbbells without swinging them. You want to be doing, you know. So it's very different. And I think so many people base their exercise off of those things. You know, it was only like a year ago, 2 years ago, that people were like, oh my God, how many calories you burnt on your watch? Oh my God, you're such a loser if it's not 500. And then it was like, actually, you know what? I've just read something that's read that actually watches aren't accurate. So don't worry about your watch, but let's continue fucking bashing ourselves into the ground. Like, I don't know. Like, I think I see so much potential in, like, I'm severely ADHD. It's really obvious in how I do things. And so I have to not have a training style like that personally, because if I give myself an even more erratic mindset with training, it would be unbearable. I don't know if you'd agree. Like, if, like, I don't know, like the idea of like changing your movement all the bloody time and just not getting better. Like, you might get better at the movement, but what is the movement exactly? Like a half windmill into like a jump, squats, plyometric, get up, back up. Do you know what I mean? The more you do it, obviously, the more confident you're going to be in training. But with strength training, like, I see the benefit from like doing it structured and then like lifting more weight, or like that's how I see my benefit. Now, I've always said, like, you know, some people are going to disagree with me on this, but in the sense of the functionalities of physique and also joint mobility and pain, I think training volume in those styles is just not, it's just not very conducive to most people's postures.
No, it's pretty evident because all it does is create joint pain and compounds further postural issues that people are experiencing in their day-to-day life anyway, from a mainly sedentary lifestyle of being sat down all day. And then you're essentially going out and choosing the wrong exercises, essentially. Not all the times, but the vast majority of the time, accentuating certain patterns too much. You know
Yeah,
what I
like
mean?
what you
Like,
mentioned.
well, like someone, you know, I saw a training program for a mainstream individual, and there's 5, 6 different variations of a hinge in one workout, and then people would wonder why their lower backs would be blown out, because there's just repetition after repetition after repetition of certain movement patterns that are working certain joints over and over again to an incredibly high level of fatigue, which most people,
Can't sustain.
you know, and that's under the assumption that you're going to be eating, you know, the right foods and the right macronutrients, and like you
Well,
said,
let's move on to lifestyle habits, because this is also very much linked. So, like that question that we go back to, which is like, how often should you train a week? You know, reality is, it's really going to come down to also your lifestyle habits. Like, can we comfortably train 5 times a week? Yes, because all of our lifestyle habits add up. You know?
but and also this, I guess it's such a nuanced topic, but one thing that we also need to touch on is intensity. Like, if your intensity is, you know, through the roof, the chances of you being able to train 7 days a week or 6 days a week or sometimes
luck. My
5
body's
days a week
sometimes.
is not and that's the one thing, especially when you see people doing 2 a day and trying to do back-to-back workouts. That just, to me, is an indication that you're just clearly not working hard enough in one given area.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Now, if we could move on to people, you know, the conversation that is like people using exercise as a compensation factor for lacking self-care habits on the other side. So, like, you know, they'll go and over-exercise. They think they need to add in like 45 minutes of cardio before, and they need to do this and they need to do that. But also from the standpoint, which is, if you are somebody that's new into exercising, or you're not just very familiar with it, and you just do it, you know, because you feel like you need to do it, you know, one of those situations. I think going in with that approach where it's very, very high intensity, like, can be slightly off-putting in the sense of being
Daunting.
able to, there's going to be one day where you're like, oh my God, I just can't keep up with this. I'm so tired. And you're going to go, oh my God, but then I'm a failure. Do you know what I mean? And obviously failing, I don't see as anything. Like, it's how you deal with that failure as to whether or not you're going to be successful. But it's more off-putting, the fact you've got to go and thrash yourself.
The idea of having a beast of a workout, 4 or 5 times a week, it's like indefinitely, where you're like burpees and mountain climbers and squat jumps and jumping lunges and lunging
God, and
jumps,
all the rest of it, and I might as well just roly
and a
poly.
deadlift into a bench press, into a squat press, into a dumbbell curl. You know what I mean? With all just horrific technique.
Well, this is the thing. Like, what's the point of doing like 65 glute bridges with a band the wrong place of the knees, or not doing it proper form, when you could do 12 reps proper form, slowed down? You know what I'm trying to say?
My question to the general population is, if progress, I guess now some people train just to feel better, some people obviously train to see progress. So to the people that exercise with an expectation of getting some return for their investment, please explain to me, once your body adapts to you just doing a hip thrust or any form of movement with your body weight, and there's full adaptation to that level, how else are you going to progress if you're not just increasing the volume even further and further, which drives fatigue? So the question is like you need to add. It's not about like, oh, you are strength trainers, you find your bias towards strength training. It's like, if there is a level of expectation for return, external resistance then needs to be used. So if you're going to use an external resistance, you may as well do it with some level of structure that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck.
I think also, like, I don't think I've ever spoken to one. I don't think I've spoken to any individual that hasn't wanted to see a return from training. Like there's people I've trained who absolutely despise exercising, and they literally have me as a coach and you as a coach because they literally will not do anything without it.
Yeah.
Now, take that, or like, I don't know. I just think that, like, if you're going to the gym 5 times a week, you're there because you want to see a return. You want to be in shape. You want to carry on being in shape. It is.
But what about the community of going down and just having a chin wag with all the?
No, there's the community side. But if you are a regular gym goer, forget the ones that go and sit on their phone. I'm talking about the ones that go in 5 times a week, allocate time, or 4 times or whatever to go to the gym. You are likely there because you're like, I need to do something which is going to hopefully make me either look or think or feel better.
I would agree with you up until having moved to the current gym that we go to, and people are going there just to socialize.
They also have absolutely fucking no idea how to exercise. So,
yeah, but I don't think that. But there's no desire to learn. It's purely come down, have a coffee.
I don't see that with all of them. I see that with a couple of them.
And
we know why.
Get a little pump on the.
But good. Get a little pump. Do you know what I mean? So nobody's going there to not see a return in like, okay, let me squeeze my chest, and my biceps, let me take a photo of my tricep in the mirror. Like, it's people are going there to get a pump on, which equals I want to see some kind of physical change and I want to feel pumped up. Or you're going because you're like, okay, well, I want my body to look better, and I know that if I go to the gym, it is like, if going to the gym, I'll put a statement, if going to the gym, forget all of your personal trainers, all your strength trainers, all of your fucking that.
Yeah.
If going to the gym had no return, nobody would go.
Would you not go?
No, I just said we are a complete anomaly. I'm talking. You would not go if it was not the benefit of the fact that you were going to see something from it. 100%. What the fuck? Why would you exercise if you weren't seeing any benefit? So if it's the same benefit, you're going there to mental clarity. For some people, mental clarity could be 2 sets of push-ups and then fuck off. But at least I've had a chin wag. Do you know what I mean? So like that's very different for
Yeah, I reckon it would be like one person in each town.
like I find benefit in the fact that I want to go to the gym and see a fucking return. Not only do I want to be stronger, I
Yeah.
want to look as best as I can, and I also want to be mentally good. And I've always said this, that I genuinely exercise demons out of my head. So, I use that,
I
but I
guess,
want to
yeah.
see that. Do you know what I mean? Like if I didn't, otherwise, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? I don't
Would
want to
you
go in there and see no
still
return. I did
would
that
you
for years. Used to
would
go on the cardio machines, just like sweating, do you know what I mean, as a fat mess, and just be like, oh yeah, but I went to the gym, I'll just go and swallow the whole vending machine. It's like,
the
it's,
whole vending
yeah,
machine?
fuck, I loved a vending
What was in a
machine.
vending machine? Like crisps?
Yeah, paprika Walker's Max.
Mm.
It's topped up with an Aero Mint, maybe.
Ooh,
I never was one for
delicious.
maybe a Lucozade. I
Pre-workout.
hate like drinks like that
But a
though.
pre-workout.
No, I was too young, Mark. This is when I was like, no, I
No,
didn't drink
pre-workout
pre-work.
as a mint a chocolate for a pre-workout.
No, it was always afterwards because I'd done the exercise.
Ah, the
And I used to go into the leisure centre and literally just raid the vending machine. I used to do it as a child because I used to swim
I
competitively.
remember coaching a woman in Kensington, and a client I just finished with her, and another woman had gone in. They were sharing a changing room, female changing room. She came out. She's like, "Do you realize that woman just sits in the changing room and eats like 5? What are those cream eggs?"
Yeah, but you know what? That's clearly an emotional
I
problem
didn't. I
because
didn't.
somebody's banished the fact she can never have a cream egg. So she's probably
Do
in
you
the middle
think
of a
that
work
was?
day.
Do you think that was
It's probably me.
installed? Was that instilled? Do you think
Classic,
that would be
the
instilled
absolute
from?
classic trait of somebody who cannot manage their mental mindset when it comes to an emotional response to food. And I used to do it, and I used to do it countless times where I didn't eat in front of people. People are like, oh my God, why is she... Do you know how many people in my lifespan have said these words to me?
Okay, go on.
I just... Like, she eats... Like, I eat really healthily. She eats really healthy. She doesn't eat that much. Why is she overweight? Because, like, if you are dealing with a problem where weight gain is one of the significant symptoms of that problem, the likelihood is you're hiding shit because it's been shamed upon. I will never forget being shamed upon for eating like a chocolate bar or eating, and I used to hide everything. And that's a horrible trait to do because you end up lying the whole time. And that is not something that I would say that... I actually won an award at school for being the worst liar. So, like, I think that genuinely it's in the yearbook. I was awarded that.
The
The
worst,
worst
liar.
liar, the most... the most likely to lose $1 million, but also most likely to make $1 million. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But actually, I'm not going to fucking
Well, was that
signify
in
my...
your yearbook?
Yeah.
Do you have a copy of your yearbook?
No,
I'd
I'd
like
probably
to-
throw it away, just like everybody in that yearbook. Do you know what I mean? Away
that
from my
have been
life.
tossed. Do you think that there's anybody currently listening to this
I
right
fucking
now?
hope not, because I'm sorry. I'm not sorry actually, because
Are
you're
you
probably a
not
prick.
sorry?
No, a couple of people I would.
Would you hiss at somebody who had
I
wronged you?
I don't hold grudges on it. I really don't. Like I have in my life, like in a way
That's
I've
a
been
shame.
treated. You
should
don't
hold
get anywhere by
grudges,
doing
though.
that.
You should. Grudges are good. That's what keeps you.
Your mum holds a lot of grudges, so like
Yeah.
I know where you come from with that. But like I have held on to a lot in my life, and it's not a productive way of thinking.
No,
You just...
I'm only joking.
What's the fucking point of living for other people's like issues? You know what I
A
mean?
grudge
That's what just...
only indicates that you care, that there's a level of care that you still have towards that individual. And for me to even attach any part of my consciousness or care towards an individual requires tremendous effort.
Why?
Because it's just like, why would I wouldn't even hold a grudge against somebody that I think is irrelevant.
Yeah, but it takes you a while to realise that... I think one of the biggest lessons you learn in life, and it's sometimes quite a hard lesson, like, is the fact that, number one, you can never, ever, ever, ever expect people to behave like you in a situation and how you manage a situation.
Jeez, we're gonna clip. We're gonna clip
never,
that because that is.
never, never, ever, ever, ever expect that people are going to match your level of
Yeah,
expectation.
it's
Not the fact that there's anything wrong with those people. It could be the fact that you might have high expectations, but don't expect that people surrounding you are going to
to
necessarily
match
match what
that.
you
No,
expect.
no.
And I think second of all is, there comes a point in your life where you realize that no matter how much you think that people care about you, they don't. And I'm talking this not in the sense of like a loving family. I'm talking, there's a lot of people you'll meet in your life, whether it's in a workplace, in life and day to day, fucking, I don't know, social to some degree. If you're not talking about them, the likelihood is they're not listening. And that is, it's painfully true. And you know how many times in my job, like I'm paid, people could say I was paid to care, but the only reason, and we spoke about this in depth because we're doing a lot of self-development this year. That's our whole, thing to be able
That's our ethos
yeah,
for
it's self-development.
2023.
And, you sit there and you get so annoyed by like the fact that I don't understand why, like, I care so much and somebody can't care. And in a job as a coach, you just sometimes expect when you have a good relationship with a client or whatever like that they would care. But I've never really reflected my own problems on clients. I normally have to deal with their issues. But when it comes to just caring about anything, normally there's fuck all. If it's not focused around.
There's two different. Like I think there's must be a wide spectrum of.
I think if you know you can help somebody,
I think
you want
people
them to
care in different ways, if that makes sense.
No, some people just do not care. Like if you don't like, and I think honestly, maybe I kind of like agree with that. Like I've obviously got a coaching profession, so my job is to manage coaching. Now, coaching is very different to having potentially a relationship with somebody in the sense of like an in-depth relationship where you know them like deep fucking down, like on a personal level, So as a coach, you don't really, with some clients, if it's face-to-face manner, you can go down that, but you always need to keep like a boundary of some degree that you're not overstepping the mark and you're being able to help that situation forward rather than sort of mull in it. And I think some people always have said to us, like, never understood how you can deal with so many people's problems.
Yeah,
and I think
that's the main, when people ask you what you do for a living and stuff like that, and you tell them and we explain to people what we do on a day-to-day basis,
so
they're
hard.
like, I have no idea how you can do that.
Because we always say this, and the route in which our business and going forward is, and the way that we're going to develop, like it goes even deeper, and I think for us, like, we have a genuine care to help people and to coach people, and I think, it can, I don't know, I don't, you've just got to be very careful with the boundaries in which you put yourself in situations where you are helping people, and you just realize that if it's not focused around their life and exactly what they're doing, and this is with friends, with everybody really, to be quite honest with you, they likely don't care. And like, I genuinely know that I can say this because the other day I was having a conversation with a friend of mine that I haven't spoken in ages. And like, this is actually going on to the topic of like how much like we don't actually communicate with anybody anymore.
No, because
it's really
all
weird.
of social media.
It's like, oh, okay, because we've seen where they are or the fact that they're here or they're there, that you assume that they're fine, or like they assume that, oh, they're good and I know exactly what's going on in their life. And there was the other day, like one of my friends was like, oh, like, how's living here? I was like, what the fuck? Like, I haven't lived there for ages. I've never lived there. Yeah, literally, I've never lived there. And then it was like, oh, how's this going? It's like, no, don't even do that. Like, you know what I mean? Hey, can you give me that?
Because I guess if you don't, we're
not announcing people,
we're in that
though.
announcement culture where everything you do, you've got to, oh my God, I got an announcement, wait for it on Thursday.
Yeah, like, God forbid you want to set the countdown on, and we just are so shit at announcing.
Absolutely everything is just announced and promoted and pushed and for so many different reasons, whether it's business, whether it's showing off, whether it's gaining
just always
validation.
Announcing stuff. I mean, if you don't announce, you don't constantly tell people.
It's so bizarre that we've gotten to a point in the real world, right? We're in the actual, not online, but the physical world, where if you do not have like a social media page for people to reference back,
Yeah.
you could literally tell people anything.
Oh yeah,
You
it's
could tell people anything.
and that's why for
Do you know what I
myself and
mean?
you, myself and
So,
Mark,
like, if you haven't posted anything in the past
like
12
you.
months, for example, yeah, like for me as an example, but you, let's say hadn't posted anything since we left Cape Town, people would still think you lived in Cape Town.
100% people still do.
People
That's the
still
sad
do.
reality.
Hey, can I have the restaurant? You're like, I'm in a different country.
Yeah, it's like, hey, like I'm coming across. Like, can I come to the gym? What the fuck? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. So,
and
like,
but
I
then
get,
I'm like, what the fuck? And then I'm like, but then
but that stops people from contacting people and being like, hey, I haven't spoken to you in ages. How are you getting on?
I would say that, hand on my heart, I've recognised that a lot in the last year with my friends, is the fact
Yeah.
that they assume, and this is not a bad thing, and I think it's just the way it's formed. I would say, hand on my heart, I'm not very good at like keeping up with friendships. I'm really not. Like, I'm one of these people where a friend really has to complement my life for me to actually have them in it. Like, I'm sorry, that's why I just limit my friendship groups. Like, I hate being in a group. A group is the worst thing ever for me. I have friends from different places and I like to have valuable relationships, but I do realise the communication's changed. It's like, hey, like, you know, it's on Instagram, do you know what I mean? Or it's here, it's there. And it's like, there's no effort outside of that. Like, when was the last time like we FaceTimed, or like when was the last time we made the effort to see each other? Like, it's very easy with life just getting in the way that you just like never end up seeing each other, or you can't, you know, and things are busy. But I think it's those assumptions
I
that
think it's the socializing that pretty much, if you're not within a, five, like not even a
5 meter
5 mile
radius.
radius, then it's pretty much game over.
Yeah, and like, you know, there's actually, we've probably upkept our biggest relationships with those that are probably the furthest away from us. Like,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know, obviously, so I've got some very close friends, but I would say in the last couple of years, I've really noticed that difference. And I guess it was a mix of like COVID and everybody locked inside and communicating online. But there is that assumption that you do know stuff and you can put out anything, you know, if you don't communicate with people properly, like in the sense of in a conversation, like, you can't assume that they're good and their life's fine and that your assumptions are correct, you know? And it's also the same as oversharing. You know, oversharing things, you're like, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? We don't need to see all of this shit. And then we don't.
My favorite one is like when people overshare and they get to the point where they have to set the camera, because behind the scenes, having like, we film content, so we know like the processes that have to go into certain things before they get filmed, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'm having such a bad day, but I'm gonna put my phone down in a good place, make sure it's got good lighting.
And I'm going to
I'm gonna
cry.
have a cry. I'm gonna have a cry right now.
Yeah.
Whilst
Right now, I'm crying. Can everybody see that I'm
cry,
desperately sad?
cry,
Now,
and it's
I'll say
insane.
this, hand on my heart, you can come from a very entitled position on saying that. You know, your family's dealt with huge amounts of mental health issues. There comes to a point when some people are just seeking attention. Now, those that are most desperately in need normally aren't the ones that aren't fucking
They're
plastering it all
definitely
over
not the
social
ones,
media.
no.
I can see certain
No.
people have used it as a journal or an outlet for their emotions, for other people to resonate with them, for them to then feel better. But there's a problem with that. That's a fucking problem. You don't know these people. They don't normally have your best interests at heart just because they're commenting on a post. Like, you are realizing that majority of people post on comments and things for an algorithm, not for anything other than that. And, you know, it's a bit too much. Do you know what I mean? And I think, you know, there is that happy medium between like, we don't really need to know that much about people's lives, but then also don't assume that if people aren't posting that things haven't changed in their life. Like, look at our parents' era, look at our grandparents' era. Like, they didn't post shit, so they just got on with their life. I wish
like
my life was like
the OG posting was weddings and funerals.
Well, I never posted at a funeral, did you?
No, well, back in the day, you would go and read the newspaper and see who's getting married, and then you would see
Wonderful.
funerals.
Great, because we
People's
don't really need
wakes.
to know that. I don't care if
was
somebody
about
gets
it.
married. I'm sorry, unless you're a part of my life, I don't care. Like, why do
Why
we
would
as
they
humans need?
post? Why would you post your marriage in the newspaper? It's like such an old school thing that they used to do.
That is old school. That's because it's part of the registry, if I'm not mistaken, in journalism.
Not
Although I think
all
there was
the
actually
no.
a
You would go
registry.
to the newspaper and you would put an
I think you
advert
have to
in
be
saying
like quite
Mark and George.
substantial to be that.
No, you just have to have the money.
Yeah, so you have to be quite substantial. Back in the day, that meant you had to be like a lord and a lady, or like a this, or of a house of, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, but I would happily. We had this conversation of what if you could. We're not really for going backwards, but I do think your past very much reflects how you behave in your present. So sometimes it is relevant to go backwards, 100%. But if you could go back to any era of the, like, you know, of generations, where would you sit? And
Egyptians.
oh, really?
Yeah, I need to see how they built that, or if
Bro,
they
that
did
looks like
build
a
it.
sad fucking life. You'd be building. You'd just be building in a desert.
No,
You'd just be
dude.
building in a desert, being wrapped up as a mummy.
Yeah,
Like,
as
how
a
is
pharaoh,
that? What
just
else is
like
what
on the
else is
Nile,
aspiring
just
then?
everything about their civilization was fascinating.
What would you eat?
What would I eat?
Mm.
Oh, they Egyptians are known to have loads of pets. They're very civilized groups of individuals, so they would.
Mark's doing that so we can have a cat.
Yeah, they had cats. They had all sorts of. So they would eat normal stuff, just fishing out the Nile, have some crocodile, some chickens.
I think you need to go back and look at the Egyptian era as to what they ate in their diet. I
Yeah,
don't think
they were balling out the Egyptians. They had like gold sandals, and they were
right, Mark. The people. Okay, so
on
if
a
you're going
different
to your
level.
position in life, okay,
As a
in the
personal
Egyptian
trainer,
era, not
getting
as a
all the
person.
getting all the pharaoh's hench.
Yeah, the mummy is fucking stacked. I definitely wouldn't choose Egyptian in any way.
There's so much
as a woman,
mystery around the pyramids that I would need to I need to understand the process behind it.
I personally probably wouldn't go back any further than being brought up in 1950s onwards.
Oh, just so
because
you can buy a
I
house.
think the way that what was that?
So you can just buy a house.
You could buy a house.
Yeah, you just buy
Buy
a
a house
house.
for 10p. Do you know what I mean?
I bought
Literally.
my house for £400.
Well, my grandma was saying, my dad's mum was saying that this was at our wedding, so 5 years ago. Weird. She said that they bought their first house, or was it her mum bought their first house for £800?
Yeah,
Sickening.
but I think back in that day, it's like, oh my word, that's a lot. But people, relative terms,
But you still had money spare.
yeah, and you could literally
If you
fix
see what my
people's
dad
shoes and
had,
still
okay, he's
afford
got a
to buy
different career
house.
path, but if you see my dad, not my dad had, like, you know, he's worked fucking hard, but like what my dad had at my age relative to what we. Jesus, it's not even comparable.
but I
But yeah,
think,
not to
you
say that
know-
he was at that age earning shit tons of money. It's just inflation.
But
You know
the
what I mean?
highest percentage of people our age in their 20s, 30s, and 40s are living at home with their parents. It's the
If
highest.
you've got a good relationship, I don't blame
Yeah,
you.
no, there's no judgment or blaming, but I'm just saying the world is currently changing in front of us, so you know.
But I think for the 1950s onwards, I still even think then's probably
I
early. I
don't
think
think
that's
peop-
like a fun
I
era where
would
there was like
ask
minimal
if we had
rules.
to ask all of our clients who have kids in their teens, do you think your children are going to be able to afford buying a house? The answer is going to be no.
No, I think unless you've made like substantial
Yeah.
wealth yourself, like which is obviously the aim, I think the majority of people will run out. Like they say after our generation of like children, like the inheritance wealth will be done, like in the sense of people inheriting money through families, because people spend so much these days, and it's hard not to spend. Like we've got all of these things. Just think about it, okay? You have a phone, okay, so forget the fact the phone costs a fucking ton. Like I spent like what, 1,200 quid on that bloody phone? Do you know what I mean? Ridiculous. And then when I wanted to exchange it and it was 6 months old, they said I was only going to get £600 for it just to get a new one. Then I had to pay for another grand for a phone.
Oh, no,
Crazy.
it makes you angry.
You go on that phone, you've got apps, okay? So when we first started apps, it was just like, okay, that's on the phone. That's the app on the phone. Do you know, we probably spend on app subscriptions for work alone, oh my God, hundreds, like a month. Like you don't
easy.
realize how much it builds up. Now we're spending on the business side of things, but in your personal life, like not only have we been taught to spend out of our means, in the sense of the likes of credit or payment installments or this. Now, I know mortgages is credit, you know, that's always been about. Mortgage is something where, like, people, obviously you get an asset and you sit in it and hopefully it appreciate, you know, it goes up in value.
Yeah.
But we're living in a society right now where people could pay, like we were, because we're thinking of changing our car, and we were looking, and you can lease like a month. Now, okay, it's a lot of fucking money for a car, but you could put down $3,500 deposit for a Hurricane, what was it, a Lamborghini Hurricane, like a 4x4, and pay $2,500 a month. Now, I know that's over the average salary a month, like in the UK, but there are people doing that, spending all of their money on like a leased car to prove something on a social media somewhere that they're living a life they are fucking skint with. And I'm sick and tired of people seeing it, where people are genuinely living out of their means. You've got things like Klarna set up, you've got things like ClearPay set up, you've got all of these things where they're like, please buy from us, and then you can pay it off after.
With
it's like,
that
you
interest
can't
rate.
afford it in the first place. Why are we buying it? Like, it's the same with credit cards. Like, unless you can manage your credit card, it's always that thing where it is hard, you know. But it's also hard not to spend these days. You go out the house, you go to the supermarket, you've spent fucking 30 quid. You don't even know what you've bought.
Yeah, well, I guess the overall economic situation worldwide is not exactly at its prime and its peak. There's record high levels of inflation.
Yeah, well, we all know
But
the actual statistics of it. But
the reality is that wages have not risen since the 1970s.
And then people are having to work. You know,
and the
you're probably able to
purchasing
do
power
more.
of your pound has reduced dramatically over time, and then the UK have ejected themselves out of the EU.
Oh, right,
and
okay. I
it's
think everybody's
just-
gone to sleep now.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a shit show. But I guess
It's a shit show, but it's always not. That, where do you think the world's going to go? Like, I don't think this is going to settle for another couple of years, at least 3, like before it starts to come potentially back down to relative, or everybody gets paid more and suddenly we're all living in inflation and fucking credit and nobody can afford anything and it's all just
what
shit. So we
happens
either
if
just
there's like a meteor that comes out of nowhere and we've got a month to live, and
I'd be in the gym
we as a
pumping weights.
whole
I'd inject myself with
civilization
shit tons of steroids, so I went
you
out
know,
looking like Thor.
comes on the news, there's a 5-mile wide meteor, it's going to hit the earth, 99% population
We
death.
don't know that's going to happen though. could
Yeah,
it?
it's happened numerous times throughout the course of history, you know, and then that's all you got like 30 days. You got 30 days to live.
What do you do is the question.
You got 30 days to live.
You've got 30 days to live. What do you do? What would you do? Like, genuinely, would you go away and like on holiday for 30 days?
No, I would block your ears, Mum, if you're listening to this. Ketamine.
What, 30-day trip? Just fucking go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, if I don't kill myself in that moment, then I'm gonna just go out.
No, you're not going to kill yourself in a drug overdose.
No, I'm just
going
saying
out
if I don't, then I'm going out with I'm just gonna go out I'll go naked, completely stark
in the forest.
just screaming, yeah, come at me, and that's it.
No, the reality is Mark is the complete opposite of how you've just fucking behaved on the microphone. I would spend all of my life savings and I'd go on a jet to an island with the animals and the cat.
Okay, but who's gonna everyone? The whole world's got 30 days to live.
Yeah,
and
I
we're
want a
expecting
tan.
we're expecting people just to carry on working their jobs. Pilots flying planes, the whole world will go into utter chaos.
Knowing me, I'll know before everybody else.
Okay,
So I
okay,
will have at least 30 hours, 24 hours
To book a flight.
to book a fucking private plane. I also, keep on getting fucking
Okay.
emails from private jet companies. I'm like, bro, do you even understand? Do you know what I mean? Stop emailing me. You think I can afford $100,000 for a fucking private plane?
Yeah.
Like, fuck yourself. It's annoying me.
Yeah.
Unsubscribe, not unsubscribe, just wish. But I would spend all of the life savings. I would go to one of the most like bespoke fucking luxury. I wouldn't even want people to look after me. I just want the island. Like just the living thing. I can
Just
cook myself.
yeah.
I would train every day.
Yeah.
I would eat whatever the fuck I wanted and
Yeah.
as much as I wanted of. I would
If as under the assumption you had the supply, like if you're in the middle of a remote island.
Mark, I'm talking about luxury
Hypothetically,
here.
okay,
I'm not
okay,
talking
luxury.
about like
Sorry, you
fucking
dirty
washing up on a
African.
shore. Yeah, you're a dirty African. Like, I'm talking luxury. Do you know what I
Okay,
mean? I'm
sorry.
talking private jets into the
Private jet.
Philippine Islands. Do you know what I mean? With the Aman Hotel.
Okay.
That's what I'm
Okay.
talking about. I'm talking.
So you've got no desire to try and like survive, like
What the fuck? The whole
jet
world's about to
yourself
be hit.
to-
Where do you go? What, into the
Mount
ocean? Just
Everest.
fucking hope you don't drown, or like
And-
what? So you think in 30 days you're going to be able to fight a meteor? You think that you can survive a meteor? You can't even survive when the car breaks down, or like literally, or we have an argument. You blew your
Well,
car.
if you've got time to book holidays and fly jets
I
across
don't have
the world,
time. I'm
I've got
actioning.
time to learn how to
How
acquire survival
is that
skills.
time? I can go onto Google right now, shyaviation.co.uk, book
Yeah.
jets, book resort, 30 days. I could
Okay.
book it right now. Probably
Why
get
would
my
you
car
pay?
to
Yeah,
come.
you'd pay for something that's not going to be there, and you know what I mean?
What the fuck is the experience? You've got 30 days to live and you're busy learning how to fight a meteor. Who sounds dumb here? I'm going to a private island,
I would
luxury,
learn
with
how
all the
to
pets on a
start
beach,
fire with 2 sticks.
drinking coconut water and having freshly prepared
How
fucking
to
fruit.
source fresh water. these
You
are
are
the
such
kind
a
of-
bellend, honestly.
these are the
What
kind
are
of-
you, Bear Grylls?
Yeah, these are the kind of skills I would need to acquire.
So you just said, actually, to start off with, that you would take a load of ketamine. Okay,
Yeah,
so now
whilst
you think you
not
can
just
fight a
take
meteor
ketamine, I would live my day-to-day life going, but I
with
would
an IV drip of
I
ketamine.
I would, substitute reality with narcotics.
No, but this is the problem, Mark, is because you'd be fucked. Because when you actually go into a trip, we know this, I used to have a fucking drug problem, you go into a trip,
Yeah.
the last thing you want to be thinking about is if it's a bad trip, oh my God, the world's ending, oh my God, it actually is. And then
Yeah.
you go into like something
Into
where
a
it's like...
proper K-hole.
No, you go to an island and you eat fresh fruit every day. You go in
Mm.
the ocean with the animals on a private jet in a luxury accommodation. Nobody's looking after you. You can go and survive on an island for
Okay.
30 days and you
Sure.
end with a tan, lots of vitamin D and a relaxed mode. You know you're going in.
Yeah.
Why are you fighting it? You're going to die anyway. You get a good Thai
go
fucking
out
boxing
always-
instructor maybe if we weren't...
Okay, now you're
You
always
just
influencing
box, do you know
me
what I mean?
again.
You'd get friends that were all in the same...
You're just influencing me yet again.
Yeah. You know what? It doesn't take much to get Mark to get influenced. I said something the other
You're
day. I was
very
like, maybe we should do
convincing.
this. He was like, yeah, actually, that's a really good idea. I was like, wow, should we jump off a cliff together as well also?
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, God, I'm not going first.
Yeah, I'll go first because I know you're a pussy.
No, you just know I won't kill myself.
Yeah, you definitely would, you little rat.
What, I just stay alive? I'm
Yeah,
going to
you
die. I'm
would,
going to
rat,
die.
yeah.
I'm killing myself. I love you so much.
Yeah.
Bye, Mark.
Yeah,
Bye.
you're a rat. I
Happy
don't-
5th wedding anniversary.
Bye. Yeah.
I'm off on holiday to the Amman.
Exactly. There you go. Do you know what I mean? Rat. Ratty
I'm a
behavior.
fucking rat. I'm a rodent.
Yeah.
I am a rodent. Yeah, anyway, that was a fucking that's a sidetrack of how often should you train per week.
Yeah,
People are
no.
going to click on this podcast and be like, right, okay, well, you
Yeah,
did a snippet on absolutely.
Yeah, 13 seconds of training.
Oh, you should train
information.
between 3 to 5 days a week.
Shitting on hit.
Yeah.
And then
Shitting on it. Yeah, literally.
that will be.
I can't not, though. I can't
Yeah,
not
I know.
converse
But
about
people,
this
you know
shit.
what people are like. You're a fitness professional and you should encourage
We're more than fitness
people
professionals,
to
FYI.
always move their bodies and you should never put people down, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? I'm not putting
Why do you think we're all in
anybody
this
down.
industry? Because we've got huge amounts of
I
vulnerabilities
know, I don't
and
like putting people
self-problems.
down, and I like to see people succeed. So that's why we lean a certain way, because having been and seen every version of the scenario,
Yeah.
the outcome is not a good outcome. It's like a 98% failure rate and a 2% of statistical
But failing does
outlier.
not... Failing...
No, it doesn't, but it then plants the seed of this doesn't work, exercise doesn't work, or negative connotations attached to, completely strenuous exercise at such a high intensity that it makes you feel nauseous thinking about it.
Yeah, and again, you always, like, before everybody, like, listens to this and goes, oh my God, I've just done HIIT this morning. Do you know what I mean? if you enjoy it, like as we always say, like movement, something like just enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Honestly, like it's about enjoying it. It's about moving your body. It's about helping yourself. We know relative to the human body that if you build relative muscle mass, that you're going to be better off as you age, and you're going to be better off with joint pain. But it's also how you do that. Do you know what I mean? You can go to the gym and lift weights.
It comes down
you can weight train and weight train like a complete dickhead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
I
not to
guess
say
it will
that
come
like
down to the person teaching HIIT and making sure that
it's not just HIIT, Mark. It's every exercise. If it's not done
exercise.
correctly in a proper manner and proper
Yeah,
form,
yeah,
you
you're gonna
can't.
struggle.
You well,
And you're
again,
not
that's
gonna
very
enjoy it.
pessimistic.
Well, you're not going to enjoy it as much. You're not going to see as much return, and it's going to be fighting. You're going to be fighting
Well,
against.
try and tell a small man wearing a vest on a leg press doing a quarter range that he's not.
And his
whilst
legs
he's
are
doing
still
250
skinny.
kilos.
His legs are still skinny.
Yes,
they look
because
like
he's doing
matchsticks.
250 kilos, but he's doing that because he's like, oh yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, but he looks like he doesn't train.
Well, that's again a very judging manner, isn't it?
Yeah, but
Mark?
it depends on what you're there for. Like if you're there just to bend your knees and stroke your ego, then you're going into that situation wanting to be judged.
I mean, at least the man's training his legs anyway.
Yeah, I guess there's it's like an onion. There's so many layers to it. Like, but I just don't think that.
Yeah, I think
it's a one size fits all. Like if you train incredibly hard, like being able to train 4 to 5 times a week is adequate.
Like I will select. I mean,
Overtraining.
and from personal experience, like when you do it properly, and I know that like I'm like incredibly anal with like technique, like I will always train with the best form possible. Like I'm because I'm a perfectionist.
Why would you not want to do it?
Because some people just like I've never had an ego override me. That's the problem. So I've never had an ego go, right, I'm just gonna fucking lift it, and if I do 2 reps with my elbows flared out and I put myself into fucking shoulder pain, then it's fine. Do you know what I mean? But that's what men do, and a lot of people do.
But there you cause and effect. Bad form equals pain.
Yes, bad form does equal pain, 150%.
So why would you want to even entertain the idea? I know it's ego and it's a whole bunch of things. That's why, and you see especially men do it when they go in, rack up the bench press, quarter rep. It's very frustrating, and I get that. But
yeah, but I think men will just never change. Like they don't need to, because there's not got anybody telling you that like
it's weird.
Men supposedly, in the words of other people, can allow women should obey men. So
I don't think that should be the case.
Absolutely fucking not. Do you know what I mean? And if there's one thing to take from this, is that's a fucking load of nonsense. Do you know who's gonna do you know what? Men obey women. There's a difference, because without women, there's fuck all.
The reality is I don't think. I don't think most, I'd say about 80 to 90% have the mental capacity or the physical capacity
to what?
To just I'm trying to think of the word.
Mark's struggling here. Because you don't have the mental capacity.
I don't know. Like I've seen, like I don't know. Maybe having trained the vast majority of women, like women train harder. They obviously go through hormonal changes, but generally they are more willing to learn. They're more willing to take things on board.
Do you want me to speak from a female perspective? And why do you think that is? Because we've been formed to, one, have to look good for the sake of male eyes and fucking gaze, literally.
Yeah, but they train generally like relative women are stronger than men.
There is only ever a will and a want with things, and women will train harder because they've been told over the years that if you train hard, you will progress in your physique, you will look better, you will be that. And that has only come from the fact of society's...
I would say most men also understand that if you train hard, you would get, but
it's
always like
not. Do you know how many men just pick their nose and scroll on their phone?
I know, and they don't want to train their legs, and it's really irritating.
Mark used to train a really well-known person that used to turn up to the gym in loafers, so he didn't have to train his legs. Like, how pretentious. Like,
and just bench press.
Probably sailing shoes,
3 times a week.
Sailing shoes or like a pair of ski boots, just to make sure that you're middle class. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just so they can assert their dominance.
Like, when a client said that, a child sprained their arm skiing, you just know that client's not shy of anything. It's always just, it's jokes, you know. I can take the piss out of it because I've had that upbringing. So But anyway, I think, just to summarize, training is, I think if you're going in with strength training, we say 3 to 5 times a week, and we say start with the minimum and make sure that your technique and your form is very good, and also that your programming is structured. It's not always about doing more is better. It's not actually. It's better to do quality over quantity with strength training. And exactly the same, like if you want to build your cardiovascular fitness, number one, start strength training. You get fucking out of breath when you're training hard at a high intensity. It doesn't have to be done in a motion of sprinting or jumping or plyometrics. Like, in the end of the day, if you train hard enough lifting weights, you'll be absolutely obliterated. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, but I'm just saying that don't think just because that style of exercise is only going to give you, fitness, It's the same as like...
I guess that also comes down to, because when people strength train, in inverted commas, people might potentially also use the same, because when people pick weights up, they automatically assume that is weight lifting or lifting weights. So the weight that's being utilized may and generally is around the same amount of weight utilized when people do high intensity HIIT training. So it feels like the overall movement and rate of perceived exertion is really, really low, because the weight doesn't match the outcome. Do you know what I mean by that? So like when people come in and they're like, okay, if you said to somebody off the street, pick a weight to do a 1-arm row, they'll pick like 6-7 kilos. When in reality, if you're doing a strength program to work at the rate of perceived exertion that you need to be working at, you need to be picking heavier weight, which is then going to drive
but that's
intensity.
relative to somebody's body weight, their understanding.
But it's also going to drive that intensity that is going to not match, but it will be relatively high and give you that feeling of accomplishment, just in less fatigue, and that is more joint friendly.
Yeah, and also just like on a side note, like if you're wanting to actually build strength, like that again is something that's only going to come down to structured programming, the right rep range, the right intensity,
and building
the right
strength,
rest,
building strength and building muscles, also two different outcomes as well.
Very different, like very different.
Yeah.
But I just think in general terms, in terms of strength training, if you're going in and you're like mid-range, you kind of understand the gym. Like we'd say like 3 to 5 times a week. I'd say 5 times if you honestly, we train 5 times, but we're also professionals. We know what we're doing. All of our lifestyle habits match up. And so if you're looking at like training and if you say to yourself, oh, I've got to get up to the gym at 4 a.m. in the morning before I work, you know what I mean? But you're lacking severely on sleep, you know what I mean? And actually you're going to the gym because and sacrificing 2-3 hours of good quality sleep, and you've only got 4 hours sleep, you're still going to the gym because you're going to the gym. That's probably going to have a worse effect on you than actually just sleeping, you know what I mean? And then doing your gym session another day, It's one of these things where if sometimes it is important to understand.
It needs fluidity within those means. And if you are 3 times a week, then your periodization and exercise selections needs to reflect that. Going in and doing chest and rear delts as like a day to train is probably not going to give you the level of progress and stimulus as a full body workout. So depending on how many times a week you are training will also predetermine on how you then structure those workouts.
Yeah, but like what I'm trying to say in the sense of like if you're looking at your lifestyle overall and you're like, I want to take exercise and want to go to the gym X times a week, like that's my goal, like is to try first of all be realistic. Do you know what I mean? Don't set yourself unrealistic expectations with it. But if you say I'm going in like 5 times a week for the sake of I'm going in 5 times a week, and you've had 4 hours sleep the night before,
correct,
and you're getting up at that time because you think you need to go to the gym to do better, I would highly suggest that, like, no, do you know what I mean? Like, sleep, like, you know, that's a lifestyle habit that's going to really, really affect your recovery, your ability to be, you know, training, you know, well and with intensity. So these, you know, these habits where if you're going to the gym all the time and you don't eat 1 cent of fucking protein, you know, it's all of these things which you're probably just not going to feel great. So, you know,
Yeah.
you want your lifestyle to match up. So
And if
don't
you,
be unrealistic as to how much.
yeah, and if you do like 12 straight weeks of training like a savage, and then you can't get to the gym for 3 times a week, and you only go once or you don't go at all, like it's not the end of the world. Like there's no need to panic.
Yeah, like, it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
It's
Your
really
body, in terms of adaptation, doesn't regress that quickly when it comes to, you know,
Yeah,
you
and
might
like if you're
lose a
not
little bit
feeling
of
like if you wake up and your
inflammation,
body's like very inflamed, like there's sometimes that I will wake up where I'm like, fuck, like training really fucked me up, like, and I'll feel like I don't want to train. Like, I love training, but I don't want to train because I know, number one, I won't be able to lift as much as I would normally do. Number two, I won't feel as good or confident in the movements because I'll ache, you know, and you know, and yes, there is this thing, if you've got slight DOMs, then yes, walk through it. Do you know what I mean? Do your steps, you know, move your body because it will help. But sometimes your body does feel very tired, and you will actually get far more benefit from the recovery than going and fucking doing it again, you know? So don't ever underestimate recovery. That is not a way of saying, oh, I can't be asked to go to the gym, so I'm just going to have
You
a
don't
rest
want to
day.
go like
You
you
know?
don't want to go and just accumulate junk volume, just, you know, going through the motions and things like that, because it's not the be all and end all of making progress. Where progress originates from is you going into the gym, beating your logbook, progressively overloading your workouts, and that comes from recovery as
Yeah,
well.
and you know, I think, as I said, recovery is one of those things where people don't really think much about it, but it honestly does you far greater, do you know what I mean, than just going and brutalizing yourself again. So I just think, you know, be aware of these surrounding factors. Don't give it yourself an excuse. You know what I mean? Like if you're waking up and, oh, I just can't be fucked. Do you know what I mean? That's not the mentality of like, oh, I'm having a rest day. Like, you need to get in and you need to action something if you want to see the result. But if you are actually actioning things and you are a bit tired, then obviously recovery is really crucial. But just don't let that mindset slip into, oh, well, I need a rest day. You probably don't if you're
or
saying, you
just
know.
the mindset of working out equals weight loss. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like, you shouldn't be using
That
exercise to
doesn't.
burn calories. It's primarily you know, functions of, you know, building strength, helping your mindset, you know, working your body in the right patterns of movement, and, you know, being healthier and fitter. You know, that's the reality of it. So that's how we're going to wrap up wrap it up today's podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening. We will be back for more soon. Speak later. Bye.
Ciao.